in the seat they sit. It's another thing to be dealing with somebody and sit up half the meeting wondering how did they get here in the first place. Big title, small person. Accident. And you never sensed that Mario Cuomo was not big enough to be what he was. Now you can disagree as I did with his judgment, but he certainly deserved and earned being governor. Some folk been at big places and you wonder how they got there and whether or not the state, the city, or the country is going to survive them being there. In between being incorrect and being incompetent. So when I heard of his passing, I said that he was a giant in the sense that he did in many ways fill that seat and represented things that many people would not represent at that time. I will never forget that you gotta always, one of the things that I try to tell a lot of young people in National Action Network is in order to understand the historic impact of something, you got to understand the setting and the time. Reason why Selma, the movie, is important is it gives you a context of what happened when it happened. So now, to go vote is just automatic. But when you see how people were killed for trying to vote, it gives you a context as to why older people say that you're being a traitor not to vote. But if you don't understand the context, you think people are being over dramatic. When in 1984, Mario Cuomo stood up and talked about the tale of two cities and talking about people that lived in poverty. In the context of that was Ronald Reagan talking about a city shining on a hill. So you looking at a speech 50 years later, saying, well, 30 years later, saying, what's all that about? Well, the context was that Reagan had brought the country to the right and had this Andy Griffin, Aunt B. Mayberry kind of picture of America. But everybody wasn't living in Mayberry.
Yes, sir. Well, come on, Brad.
Everybody wasn't waiting on Opie to come home.
Come on, Brad.
And what Cuomo did in that 84 convention was give another side in that context that was very important and showed some political courage. So I certainly give my condolences to he and his family. And I teased Andrew Cuomo, who's more my age. We were about 2 or 3 years apart, and grew up fighting. He was his father's chief of staff. So when we was dealing with issues from Howard Beach on, we used to have we kind of sparred down through the last 30 years. And but he always reminds me of his father's great speech in '84. Stand Up for Liberalism and how it was a great speech. And I said, yes, it was a great speech in '84, second to Jesse Jackson's speech, which was one of the great speeches of Democratic Convention history until Barack Obama and I spoke in '04. Y'all did all right. I also want to give our condolences from National Action Network, and certainly the Garner family has always expressed it, to the family of Officer Lou, who will be funeralized and buried tomorrow. And he is one of the two officers that were killed. Well, two things about that before I go into other issues. One, it is interesting to me that the police commissioner, and the head of the Captain's Association has to appeal to policemen to not turn their back on the mayor at the funeral tomorrow.
They're devils.
For them to have to ask police to respect one of their own and the family of their own is certainly something that you would think would be unnecessary. Now, mind you, the mayor had come out and said he would like to see tempers cool and protests wait till after the funerals. And some said they would, some said they wouldn't. I said, well, you can't stop people from protesting, they have a right, but that man was going to do what he was scheduled to do, which was our rallies anyway. But we had not scheduled any marches. Then the police go to the funeral and protest. What they did at the funeral of Ramos was have a protest against the man. How can you tell protesters not to protest, but the rules don't apply to us? And I think to show you how biased the media is, they won't even call that out. When Eric Garner was choked to death, when Michael Brown was shot and killed in Ferguson, whether we all agreed on tactics or not, every activist group respected the funeral in Eric Garner and in Michael Brown. Why wouldn't the police respect the family of the officers that invited and welcomed the mayor there? If you didn't respect his politics, respect he was invited by a grieving family. Well, they gonna argue, well, you know, Rev Mal, some of them were out of town. Whatever they was, whether it was in-town police, out-of-town police, to be standing up there in uniform and protesting.
Murderers. That's what they were.
And I think that it was absolutely outrageous and disrespectful. Now, I also, this whole thing of the blame game, blaming the mayor, blaming the president, blaming activists like me. I was reading this morning, did a whole story in the New York Times about the man that shot the cops, who had a history of depression, attempted suicide. And it was interesting. Now, this is the Times. Now, this wasn't National Action Network website. They said that he had very little political leanings. And all this they're trying to build up is not substantiated.
Come on.
Now, what is really, in my opinion, ruthless is to take something like a brutal murder of a policeman and try to use that to get your political hits off at your opponents. Y'all just hollering, I'm on the air. And I want folk to hear what I'm saying. All these outbursts ain't helping get the message out. I understand everybody's emotion, but let me finish the sentence. Now, I think that it is important that people understand that when you see people, you know, when one guy jumped on television, couldn't even answer his question for attacking me. Then they come out this week, I don't know if they did this during the media report. There was a report in Mediaite that Fox News mentioned me almost 400 times in the month of December. 7 times more than CNN, 6 times more than MSNBC, and I have a show on MSNBC. That's how obsessed they are.
Well,
with choosing and picking targets, particularly in black leadership. All kind of stories on black leadership, shots at us. 3 or 4 young folk want to get on the program and watch it, act like it's a generation gap. No, it's 3 or 4 young folk want to get on the program. It ain't no generation. You got 50,000 people there. You got a few that say, well, we want to be on program. They argue with people in their generation. But anything to divide and conquer.
yes, sir.
And some of us are so misguided that we fall into a trap of helping our adversary take down our friends because we're not wise enough to understand that even families that have disagreement don't help tear families down. Y'all, we just ended the holidays. If y'all in a holiday gathering and getting a family argument, folk next door ain't got no business ringing the bell, getting in the middle of your argument.
That's right. Tell it, Rev.
Y'all could be inside fighting. You come outside, people don't walk over to you and say, man, you right, your daddy wrong. You should be saying, wait a minute, that's our business. So when you read and hear people play into that, you either got to question their wisdom or their agenda. People that are more angry at black leaders than the circumstances that black leaders and them are addressing. Something suspect about that. All you got to do is keep agitating against folk that's standing up for you. And let me tell you something, and go right back to that Selma movement. They did it to Dr. King, they did it to Malcolm, they do it to those out there today that's nowhere near that leadership level, but the same thing. They get based on envy, jealousy, or tactical disagreements. People to start fighting each other. I remember back when I was coming up, and we were coming, I grew out a breadbasket, and Reverend Daughtry formed National Black United Front with who's here this morning? Give Reverend Daughtry a hand. And they started Timbuktu and all. Everybody in town with another group go attack Reverend Daughtry. And I'm watching this. Adam Clayton Powell, everybody get at it. So by the time it became my turn, I knew they was coming after me because I watched them come at everybody else. Come on, Rev. Did the same thing with Reverend Jackson. People asked me week before last, what's his name, Giuliani got on TV attacking me. Why does he go to the White House 85 times? Remind me of when Ed Koch said you'd be crazy to vote for Jesse Jackson. We've been through this before. This is nothing new. And if young people, that's why it's good that Victoria Purnell opens up every week. You move over and up, talk about our history. If young people understand the history, this is nothing but a repeat of that, so don't play into it. One lady said, don't let Sharpton dominate what you're doing. I don't even know what you're doing. But if they plant that in your head, you think we after something that we are not even aware of. Everything we've done around Gardner and around Michael Brown, we've done with the families at their request as National Action Network. I ain't trying to get nobody else's thing. And we've been able to pull off the most consistent and the biggest because we have an infrastructure. But don't get caught up in that, well, I don't know what they're doing. Nothing. Whatever you do, God bless you, heaven smile on you. Don't worry about us, because we have an agenda that we're going to continue to do, and we've been doing that for 24 years. So don't let nobody confuse you. Right now, Mrs. Garner's here. Right now, the mother of Eric Garner sitting here. They will tell you every Tuesday and Thursday, Cynthia Davis has been leading National Action Network in front of that federal building in Staten Island every week, twice a week. When a lot of folk had not got to I Can't Breathe, we were there. We brought 15,000 people to Staten Island to protest before the grand jury. So this whole playing game is instigated by those that want to confuse and get away from the fact that this man choked Eric Garland and other police stood around and didn't stop him or turn it in, and EMS workers come and didn't help him. That's the issue.
That's right. That's right.
And don't get so trapped up in them playing groups against groups. Well, I'm the so-and-so, I'm the so-and-so. Whatever you are, do what you're doing for justice. And don't get in everybody else's way. Ain't nobody bothering you. Ain't nobody stopping you. So why are you trying to stop somebody? Hello? Somebody asked me, are you going to so-and-so? I ain't sitting around needing invitations. I got plenty of invitations. We got a staff. I got 31 folk on staff. That's why they there. If I say I'm not coming, oh, Sharp no big is important. If I say I am coming, oh, he's trying to take over. But again, it's not personal. They did the Daughtry, did the Jesse, did the Bill Jones. I've watched this all my life. And I'm telling you, my advice is don't play into the division. That's right. We all march. Talking about Black Lives Matters. Well, if Black Lives Matter and that we believe that, then black families matter. Yeah. And black leaders matter. That's right. And black culture matters. That's right. Don't have them disrespect each other. Because I'm telling you, they are very afraid. See, I understand what's going on here. I understand the hysteria. A lot of y'all don't understand. These conservative, reactionary, politically reactionary people woke up one morning and the whole world changed on them. And they don't know what to do. They never thought they'd live to see a day where people that are progressive would be in charge.
Right.
With all they trickle-down economic theory.
Right.
With all they tax cuts for the wealthy. With all they get derivatives for Wall Street. They woke up one morning and Barack Obama was in the White House, Bill de Blasio was in City Hall, and Al Sharpton could go see them. That's a nightmare to them.
Right. That's right, Rev. That's right, Rev. That's right.
That's what happened.
That's what happened. That's right, Rev.
They said Obama could win. He won twice. They said de Blasio was too far to left. He won with the largest margin